My job is to help them understand what does it mean to be a financial leader in your life.
The goal for all of us is we want to preserve and protect and grow generational wealth.
Probate is expensive. It is complicated. It is a pain in the ass. You do not want to participate in that if you have more than $150,000 worth of net worth.
Our lives are little businesses, right? We collect revenue, we make investments, we have assets, we have debts. It all needs to be managed and taken care of.
Your legacy gets to live on beyond you, intentionally and consciously.
The happiest examples that I get are when I get people when they're young and they come to see me and we talk through dreams and issues and challenges and we put together a good plan, and then I get to meet their kids several years later.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter.
Hey, you, this is Christina Suter with Real Estate Breakthrough, and I have Scott Schomer with me. And honestly, I am excited. You're going to have to live with it. I know I'm often excited about my guests, but here's the thing. Scott Schomer is my living trust attorney. That is who he is. We just redid my trust with my husband to be able to take care of my daughter. And if you don't understand the deep, deep value of having a living trust, let me try to bottom line just very, very quickly from my point of view. Probate is expensive. It is complicated. It is a pain in the ass. You do not want to participate in that if you have more than $150,000 worth of net worth. And the more net worth you have and the more you invest in real estate, the more complicated your estate becomes, the harder it is for you to make sure that it goes where you want it to go, it gets treated the way you want it to treat, and the people who are going to get it are the people you want to have it. So you don't want to let the courts into your business. Your living trust allows you to make sure that the courts are not in your business. So that's why I'm like, hey, Scott, we're going to update the trusts again. We're going to get this done. So thank you, Scott, for making that super easy. My husband is 84, so it's not always easy with somebody as they get older and older. And Scott was amazingly patient and kind and willing to work with my husband the way that he is as an older gentleman from the Midwest. So thank you, Scott, and welcome to the show. I'm proud to have you here.
Oh, Christina, what a delight to be here and what an introduction. Wow. I'm thrilled, and I love both you and Glenn. Keep me on my toes and make it all interesting. So thank you.
Yes. Scott, tell us a little bit about why be a lawyer, like the whole lawyer living trust thing. I know you're also a financial advisor as well. So I believe you were a lawyer first and then a financial advisor second. So you tell me, bring me up to speed on your history.
Boy, that's a great starting point, Christina. So, as a young person, it was kind of interesting. I was inspired by two parents, both who went through graduate school. My father was in the business world working for a big automotive company back in the Midwest. My mother charted her course, getting first a master's and then a PhD, a doctorate in psychology. And she eventually set up a thriving therapy practice. And the simple, easiest way I started was that I looked at the two of them and mom was very happy and dad was not. Um, Mom seemed much more fulfilled, rewarded, and I found what she did interesting. But the core of what I really liked about what mom did was it was talking, helping, understanding, and assisting people, right? Being alongside of them and really helping them out. So my initial career path was that I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be a therapist. And that's what I double majored in psychology and philosophy in college. And I worked for a year in the field. But after a while, and I say this with nothing but love, but I was missing the entrepreneurial business element. I love the social workery side, but it felt just a little too structured, rigid, institutional, not sort of where my soul lied. So I went and did some deep thinking. I went and did some career counseling and sat with a number of people. And I was repeatedly told, you need to think about being a lawyer. And every time I heard that thing, I said, oh my God, why would anybody ever want to be a lawyer? That sounds like the third level of, what, right? But as I got into it, I looked at it and I actually went and attended a law class. And one of the things that I realized is first of all, lawyers are, if they're doing their job correctly, incredible problem solvers. And they're forced to come alongside people, help people understand their problems, and then be their best advocate. Go help them tell the story of what's going on with their lives and go fix things. And, one of the titles that we use for lawyers, and they actually taught me this when I was studying psychology in college, was that we are counselors at law. That's what we do, is we provide therapy in many ways for real estate transactions, for business transactions. We help move you through that. And that was sort of the guiding light. And as I came out, we can talk more about sort of what my initial steps were. But I found myself very attracted to real estate initially, and then it really evolved into the practice that I have today.
You know, I've interviewed lawyers before, and that is the best intro I've ever heard. And I'm not trying to compare.
Well, true.
It's not a comparison thing, but because my dear love, right? I have a bachelor's in business, I have a master's in psychology, and I have a teacher's credential. So I'm a great believer in counseling people, moving them forward, even as a registered investment advisor. Like, that's my job. My job is to help them understand, what does it mean to be a financial leader in your life? Not me as your financial leader, you as your financial leader in your life. What does that mean, using your real estate portfolio to help you provide and create a life of passion and purpose? And I'm like, oh, yes, that's the cool stuff, right? But it's boring math over here. And when my mom said, oh, you should be a financial advisor, she did tell me when I was like 12, 13, you should be involved in finances. I'm like, oh, that sounds horrible.
Boring.
Boring. I mean, the people that are in that are like rigid and stiff, and they only follow certain. I'm like, no way. That's where I ended. My mom was right and I was wrong. Something.
So actually, I'm going to put a little more color on this, because I've never been asked such a great question. When I went and did the career counseling, I had 2 different counselors, after doing a battery test on me, come to me and they go, "You are a perfect fit for 3 careers. I've never seen anybody line up so well with 3 careers." And I went, "Oh, that's great. What are they?" And they go, "Well, first of all, shrink." Okay, well, I'm trying to not do as much of that, right? Second of all, college professor. Well, now I'm also an adjunct. I didn't tell you this, but I'm an adjunct professor of law at Loyola Law School, where I teach these very subjects. The third one was being a lawyer. That's when I was like, but here I am, 34 years later, and I am doing basically all 3 of these things. The skill test that these 2 people identified me back in the day line up perfectly, because I educate, because I solve the problems, because I talk people and help people through very difficult situations. It's sort of the perfect convergence of everything that I do. Crazy, huh?
It is crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't have I feel similarly. Like, I kind of like took the circuitous route from my educational career, and I landed on the job that actually used everything that I learned completely by accident. I didn't have a counselor to suggest it. And I suspect your story is the same way, which is like, no, I'm not going to be that. Or
Right.
somehow life,
Here I am.
the universe, whatever your belief is, the unconscious, the universal unconscious, according to Jung, whatever it is you choose, you land kind of in this place where you can actually use your passion and purpose, your sense of direction, and the natural skills you've been given to actually help other people move forward. And for me, it's a very satisfying life. Like, I medicine must say it's cool, and I love it. And I like having the freedom and the financial and puts Ghana through school, and it lets me and my husband live a life that we enjoy living. But my joy is in helping people move forward, having them find their passion and purpose. That's satisfying to me.
No, you're absolutely talking my language. That's and people look at me sometimes and say, "When are you planning on retiring?" I'm like, "I'm not sure ever." Right? I love what I do. All right. Which is very unusual for lawyers. Most lawyers don't love what they do. I love what I do. I'm very blessed.
And you're very good at it. Like I said,
Oh,
we
you're sweet.
found Scott years and years ago for a probate problem that we were facing. And then it was time to redo the trust amendment. I know exactly where I'm going. I'm going to go to Scott and help him do our trust, which was great because we were able to go through all the nuances of exactly what we wanted for our daughter, for my husband, now life had changed for us. He's older, and I did finally tell Glenna the other day that she gets the house. Not that she needs to know, but that eventually when my husband passes, our family house is going to go to my daughter and not to me. So therefore, no knocking off my husband, everybody. There's no use in that. Just saying.
Right. Is she getting excited about evicting your husband? I can evict Dad. How exciting! I know.
Mom, you can
No.
stay if you want.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, moving on. That was nice of you. But here's the thing. Your company is very specific and very intentional. Your intentionality as a human being feed through your company. And it to me is part of your guy's secret sauce. So tell me about the secret sauce of your company and from your point of view.
From my point of view. So, um, uh, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to wind it back a little bit and talk about my legal career to sort of give you an idea of sort of where it came. So, as investors and business people, we all are sort of colored and shaped by our own experience. And so I came out and I landed in Los Angeles, the largest litigation city in the world, and one of the most successful and high-powered real estate markets in the world in 1990. Now, if you weren't alive or you weren't paying attention to what was going on right there at that time, we had just gotten through the S&L crisis. And the commercial real estate market in Los Angeles County was failing and collapsing. So I found myself involved in all these lawsuits, including in the mid 90s, where I became a foreclosure expert. So I was sitting in foreclosure. I probably foreclosed on over 100 different commercial buildings. So I watched all these people that had spent their lives, built their dreams, built all this stuff, and everything was going wrong. And I was kind of the grim reaper, right? And so the whole idea of, get rich quick, get in real estate, everybody makes $1 million. I walked right into massive reality testing, right? It's like, have you really thought through all the things that could go wrong, all the challenges, all the places? And I spent about a decade really working in that area where I did nothing but disputes over real estate. And I found myself a few years later, after some in-house counsel positions where I got some more business and securities and merger experience, looking at the field that I'm on now, again from sort of the standpoint of people in their own personal situations. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about elderly people that are failing and they're being taken advantage of by scammers. They're getting deeds forged. They're getting money taken out of their checking accounts. We're talking about a conservatorship to protect them. We're talking about, is their trust in order? Are their estate plans? Are their life affairs in order? And the connection that I really drew is, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, our lives are little businesses, right? We collect revenue, we make investments, we have assets, we have debts. It all needs to be managed and taken care of. And I don't care if you're Bill Gates or you're, just a guy that just has a couple of quarters to rub together. You got to be thinking about what's the best way to do this. And first starting with the S&L crisis and the stuff that I went through in the early 90s, and then in the first part of this decade, seeing all the families that were destroyed and lives messed up because of lack of planning, poor planning, all these types of things. I really said to myself, I treat everybody as if they were my mother or my father, right? How do I protect you? Let's think about this ahead of time. Let's think about what's the best way to really look at the whole picture that is your life, to really make sure we have connection with all the pieces, that they all work, that you're not making bad tax decisions, that you're not making bad structure investments decisions, that you are protected from the fundamental essential lawsuits, which are probate and potentially a conservatorship. And then we can go from there and see if we need to do additional protections to protect you and your family. Because the whole idea here is that the goal for all of us is we want to preserve and protect and grow generational wealth, right? We all want to have wealth. We want to grow the wealth. We want to have this thing run efficiently, smoothly, with as least stress as possible. And so as a guy that's had a front row seat to the carnage, both on a commercial standpoint and inside businesses as general counsel for a couple of years, and then managing people's the situations financially through trusts, estates, and all the litigation surrounding all that. That's really the secret sauce that I bring to this. Is I take a holistic look at you, what your goals, what your dreams, what your visions are, where are you going, And how can we do this and not do it in a way where we just throw money at the problem and build giant edifices that may or may not make sense. Let's do this simply, efficiently. And the happiest scenarios that I get, just real briefly, and we'll go into an example of a crash story in a minute. But the happiest examples that I get are when I get people when they're young and they come to see me, and we talk through dreams and issues and challenges, and we put together a good plan. And then I get to meet their kids several years later because the inevitable has happened, and I can transition all their assets literally within sometimes as quickly as a week, but without any of the big taxes, without any of the big court costs, without any of the delays, without any of the heartache. And it just makes me glow. People are taken care of and the family is preserved.
So well said. I mean, just so well said. I mean, like you said, it is the perfect combination between the psychology, the teacher, and the lawyer, and being able to serve people and help them really get the dreams that they have for their estate be stated in a way that's legally binding, implementable, simple,
Right.
straightforward. The courts will listen to it, and it gets to happen. And that's the beauty of a living fast, right?
Right.
But your legacy gets to live on beyond you, intentionally and consciously.
Yeah.
So, and easily. So, secret sauce for a minute because I want to save time. We have a story for you guys. We have a
Yeah.
one, right? That we
Yeah.
you queued up specifically for you guys. So stay with the story. So, quickly, and is there anything else about the secret sauce of your company other than the level of intentionality and care that you guys put forward?
Um, I guess the other pieces that I would say is we love staying connected with our clients. We love to see them back. We invite them back every couple of years. We never charge them unless we warn them we're going to do something. So that's very important. And then I guess the other part that I haven't talked about is as part of this, as part of protecting and structuring assets, one of the things that I went into about a decade ago is I became a financial advisor because I saw such carnage and disaster in that area as well. And so the discipline that we bring to helping people invest their money in stocks and bonds and those types of assets it comes out of decades of academic research, which has resulted in Nobel Prize awards for such things as efficient market hypothesis and the modern portfolio theory. But we bring the fiduciary approach. So it's not just that I'm putting your interest in front of ours, but we spend a lot of our time in my practice counseling and guiding professional fiduciaries. So I know how fiduciaries are supposed to act, and I know how they're supposed to act specifically with investments. And so that's really part of what we try to do because from my viewpoint, I think it's the best way to grow generational wealth.
So beautifully said. And again, it's something I've noticed about you guys, and I think that's the fastest growing part of your business right now, if I remember correctly, because you guys
Yeah.
are taking on newer clients. You've been taking on people who worked long time with other professionals in the field, and they're ready to retire, and they trust you, and you're able to be taking over and meeting their book of business and being able to really grow that part of your business with the same philosophies, the same integrity, the same ethos. We care about you as a human being. By the way, the founder, Scott, really is that person who does care about you as a human being. All right. I promised a story, Scott. So you pulled a story when you were at FIBI Pasadena at my meeting, and it was the Turf Man story. And yes, we're going to tell you guys the Turf Man story. All right, I'm going to share. We actually have slides, so I'm going to share the slides, and you can go for it. We've got the case study, the Turf Man. It was a really good example of why a trust and planning can be so incredibly important. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate it, Christina. And this is I've sanitized the names to protect the innocent, but this is a story that connected with me on so many levels because this was a gentleman in his 40s, and he was doing all the things that I could have seen myself doing if I had taken if I decided not to listen to that career counselor. I might have been doing exactly this, and so this one just really broke my heart. So, this gentleman's name was Dennis. I never met him because he was deceased before he came to us. He's originally from Virginia. He's what I'd refer to as a classic entrepreneur. And Christina, you're able to see the words on the screen?
I can't see the words on the screen. They're updated. Yep.
Fabulous. Okay. So he was a young, healthy, single 43-year-old man. moved out here to California. He had been a builder, a real estate developer, and he had formed an AstroTurf installation company, a perfect distillation of his three skill sets of building and developing and investing in real estate. He relocated in California because there was so much great business out here. He was installing turf fields around the Southland, and he had grown this thing so that he had more than a dozen contractors on his crew with 10 work trucks. What a success story. So he goes along, and shortly after going to California, he meets a lovely young lady at his favorite watering hole. And shortly thereafter, he's surprised with the arrival of an unexpected little bundle of joy named Susie. Now, the two of them are not married. They had only been dating, only for a few months before she discovered that she was pregnant. So he called his parents up to share the happy news. They came out and met the mom and the baby, but they only met once over lunch or over brunch. And what I'll tell you is that it was not a great connection. But anyway, he carries on. So now he's got a child to support. He's got a girlfriend. He's not officially married. And he comes up with this opportunity. He sees a house in Long Beach, and the place is a hot mess. And he says, great, I'm going to go acquire that. But in the meantime, because of all the success he's had in his business, he's being sued by his ex-business partner. So he's in the middle of a lawsuit defending his right to run his business. He considered it frivolous, and he was confident he would defeat it. And as part of this, he took a big chunk of money out of his turf business, which was an LLC, to go buy this fixer in the Long Beach area. He got to work gutting the house, and he removed all the doors and windows. And then, bam, he's hospitalized. Suddenly with heart pains, he died within 3 days of his hospitalization. He had no will. He had no trust. He was the sole owner of 4 LLCs in 3 different states, and he was leasing a warehouse, 10 work trucks, and an apartment. And his girlfriend, Tammy, who had formerly been a waitress, had left her job, had no discernible skill set. She did have a set of keys to the warehouse, and she was spending her time caring for little baby Susie. So what happens? Well, the house has a mortgage on it because, property in California is expensive. So he had to borrow some money to buy it. And she didn't have the means to be able to pay the mortgage. In addition, without windows or doors, the house was vulnerable to theft and was cited by the city of Long Beach as a massive hazard. The house could only be sold after a probate was open and an administrator was appointed, and it had to be done quickly because otherwise it was at risk at foreclosure. In the meantime, with no one in charge, all of his equipment was in the warehouse and no one had the ability to pay the bills. Anything of value that wasn't tied down seemed to disappear. The trucks were all repossessed. The thriving company was parted out for pennies on the dollar, and the Long Beach house was sold for pennies on the dollar. And of course, having to run this estate through probate, your basic rule on probate is that you're going to be looking at paying 4 to 8% of the gross value of the estate. So you take that $1 million or $2 million house, on a $1 million house, you're looking at a minimum of $50,000 in fees and costs to do the probates. Little baby Susie and his girlfriend Tammy couldn't have access to any of the money, which is part of what probably motivated them to steal from the estate. And it was a hot mess. But if that wasn't bad enough, after a couple years, little baby Susie isn't old enough to manage her own money. So after the probate is done, what funds that remained went to Tammy as the court-appointed guardian. That's another lawsuit that the family had to start and prosecute. Tammy would have all the funds, but it was subject to a court bond, which means a massive insurance policy on the amount of money, plus annual accountings. All the assets must be invested very conservatively until baby Susie turns 18. So what you're talking about generally is insured bank accounts, maybe some conservative bond portfolios. You certainly aren't buying more real estate or starting turf businesses or doing anything that Dennis would have loved to do. And at age 18, when Susie reaches that age, the funds will be given to her without any restriction. So all you can do is pray that Susie grew up well, is raised well by her mother under these very difficult circumstances, and that she doesn't make bad decisions. And so my rough estimate was that out of this estate, out of this empire that Dennis had created, between the turf business, between his speculation house, between all this stuff, he probably threw away about 80% of the value of his estate. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And so the way I summarize it is basically, it's a hot mess. There's no protection from probate. There's no protection from lawsuits, no protection for remarriage. And it was just a disaster. So how could we have done this differently? Well, I could go for hours and hours, but in quick summary, there is a better alternative. The path that Dennis chose, because he did nothing, was to run it through what I refer to as the private system. In other words, the use of probate court, which is a lawsuit, the use of the guardianship court, which is also a lawsuit. I'm sorry if I said private, I meant the public system. That's the public system, right?
Definitely public.
That's the public. The alternative to that is to do it through the private system. So what's the private system? For most people, it involves this thing called a living trust. Really quickly, what a trust is a three-party contract. So the people, Dennis would have created the trust. He would have put his assets in it. He would have named himself as trustee. He would have named a backup person to be his successor trustee if something happened to him, probably his father. And then the trust would have said he was the beneficiary during his life. And then all the assets would have gone to little Susie afterwards. He would have occupied all three positions when he set it up, and it would have been business as usual. So Dennis could have still had all the flexibility that he needed as an entrepreneur to be able to chase his dreams, to do the things that he wanted. There isn't really a giant additional burden, but he would have had all of the things in place, standing by to protect the people that he loves, little Susie, and without doing it without any court involvement or systems. So the questions that I always ask is, how will you be remembered? How will you be remembered? Do you want to be somebody that leaves behind just an absolute disaster, bloody mess? I mean, what broke my heart more than anything is that Dennis was a self-made guy. He crawled out of, he did this from his own experience. He developed his skills as a builder, as a developer, as an investor. He spent all this time getting educated, learning all this stuff. And then it all just became a complete disaster. And that's really the why I want to do this. I don't want to see this to happen to anybody, whether you're a young person, whether you're in the middle of your life, whether you're senior. These disasters can happen to people at any time. And so the easy way I summarize is, please don't let this happen to you. So, and a little bit of shameless self-promotion, Christina, I have a little QR code there that if people found this helpful, we'd love to hear about it. We also educate people on a regular basis. If you go to our website, Schomer Law Group, we have seminars that we host in the public. We're doing some in early March in Culver City and in Redondo Beach. But you can also get more education on our site. But if you got a minute to leave a review, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So
Schomer is Schomer, guys. Schomer. And I loved the story. And I think the thing that to me was this biggest single cornerstone of the story was, because he didn't have a trust, there was no single person with immediate authority to be able to manage all of his business interests. Immediately, the day after he passed, there would have been a person with immediate authority that could have stepped in, that could have taken care of the warehouse, could have taken care of the trucks, could have figured out how to get the mortgage paid, could have interacted with Tammy, could have been able to make decisions that would have protected all the assets that remained unprotected. And that to me is the just cornerstone as to why I must have a living trust.
But part of what I didn't go into on this short presentation is, on this case, getting somebody in charge was delayed over 6 months because the Tammy, the baby mama, didn't like the parents, and the parents didn't like Tammy. And so they sat and they fought, and you got to go into court 2 or 3 times. And yes, it's a mess. So excellent distillation of the issue.
Yeah. And the final thing for me is, with the living trust, is being able to declare what's going to happen to my assets with clarity in a way that the courts are going to adhere to it, whether they like it or not. Right? Maybe I don't want to leave it to my daughter. Maybe I want to leave it to my nephew. Maybe I want to leave it to my niece. Maybe I want to leave a piece of my estate to somebody who isn't my immediate descendant. the courts are not going to listen to any of that unless it's in a document that is implementable and that they can action on. And a living trust is that document. I don't know any other document. There's a will, right? But will still goes through probate.
Yes, it does. Exactly.
It's still a slow, cumbersome, expensive process. So yeah, I had a living trust since I was 17. And Mike, did I mention I'm a great believer in living trusts?
Yeah, that's I don't think I've known anybody that's had a living trust as early as 17. So you are an icon.
Okay, well, okay, it must have been on my 18th birthday. But the point is that when I got my very first piece of real estate from my mother, she required that I have a living trust. Period.
Smart lady.
Smart lady. All right, guys, we got to bring this to a close because we have run out of time. So, Scott, I know you put it the Google review, but how do people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you directly? They want to be able to hopefully talk to you about creating a living trust and or some conservative, solid financial advisement and a place to put their assets that also has that legal background behind them.
Thank you. So our website is schomerlawgroup.com. If you just Google my name, it's Scott Schomer, Schomer. I'm pretty easy to find. I've got a robust LinkedIn page, a robust Facebook page, lots of stuff on the internet, lots of informative articles, over 1,000 blog posts on my website. And there on my website, we also list when we have our seminars that can help you with all this stuff. So we'd love to see you. We're based in El Segundo, but we serve really people from all over the country because if they have a connection to Southern California, there's a reason for us to help you. So
makes perfect sense. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Real Estate Breakthrough. This is Christina Suter, and tune in 2 weeks for the next show.